Miya, who is at the Hector Pieterson Memorial in Soweto. I understand that there's going to be a wreath-laying ceremony a little bit later there at the site. Good morning to you, Nozintombi.
Well, a very good morning to you, Valand. There certainly will be a wreath-laying ceremony here outside the Hector Pieterson Memorial, and we are anticipating that it will be a high delegation. We're anticipating that the Deputy President, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, will be here, as well as the Gauteng Premier. But with me now is Dr. Malcolm Klein, and Dr. Malcolm Klein was one of the ER doctors who was on duty at Baragwanath on the morning of the 16th of June. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Klein. Just give us a recount. You were having tea in the morning when you got a call that there was a big incident that had just happened.
That is correct. I was having tea alone in the tea room. My other casualty officers were elsewhere in the hospital, and a nursing sister came in running and said, "Doctor, there's been a disaster." And I was wondering what sort of disaster. I've seen disasters almost every Friday night. And as I came out, I saw a whole procession of trolleys with young students in neat school uniforms, and my mind was trying to make sense of this. Was this a bus accident? And I saw the bloodied bodies and bullet wounds, and it took me a while to kind of figure out what had happened. They'd obviously been shot by the police, and there was about 10 of them, and since I was alone, I attended to the most seriously injured victim, and that was a young student with a almost innocuous round hole right in the center of his forehead, with the back of his head blown away. And I called my friend, a neurosurgeon, because I thought we needed to take him to the operating room immediately. But when he came, he described this as a non-survivable injury. So the student was actually dead despite the fact that his heart was beating.
And at that time, did you have an indication of who the student was?
We did not, because the students obviously carried no identification at all. And in newspaper reports later, I actually thought that this was Hector Pieterson. And it was only about 30 years later that I wrote a story that was published in the 30th anniversary edition commemorating the June 16th, that we discovered that this was not Hector Pieterson. This was indeed Hastings Ndlovu.
Yes, and we understand now that Hastings Ndlovu was one of the first casualties of the police shooting, and he was 15 years at the time.
He looked to me about 15. He may have been older, but he looked to me extremely young face, very young, innocent, sweet face.
Yes. And what thoughts were running through your mind at that time?
I just could not understand what was going on, because obviously the police had clearly shot to kill. And in fact, my limited experience of ballistics indicated to me that it was a high-velocity bullet. And in ensuing days from news reports, the strategy of police became clear. They would have a whole gaggle of police officers facing the students with revolvers and rifles, but they would have one or two snipers at high vantage points. And their orders were to shoot to kill the leaders and to shoot them in the head. So this clearly identified Hastings as one of the student leaders of the protest.
And at that time, those gruesome injuries that you had treated at the time, the government at the time wanted to keep that undercover, and they didn't want you to give a proper forensics investigation in terms of what the key injuries were.
That is correct. In fact, they went further. The police actually asked us to take down the names of every student that came in with a bullet wound. And in collusion with the clerks, I think we even gave false names, but every student with a bullet wound had a diagnosis of abscess, broken leg, and so on. But absolutely, the police wanted all of this to be quiet, and everyone thought that by the afternoon that everything would go away, but clearly it did not.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Malcolm Klein. And Dr. Malcolm Klein was one of the doctors that was treating some of the first casualties of June 16 from about 10 o'clock in the morning, and he just recounts his experiences of some of the brutal and gruesome injuries that he had to treat of the children that were brought in after police started shooting back at them. But Valand, we will be keeping you updated with the events as they unfold here outside the Hector Pieterson Memorial. There will be a wreath-laying ceremony, and as events progress, we'll keep you updated.
Thank you so much, Nozintombi Miya there from the Hector Pieterson Memorial. Certainly some harrowing memories. Let's continue with our